Have you ever been hacked? Have you ever been embarrassed because you accidentally caused your company to be infected with a virus? Do you know a business or someone who has lost finance and money because they've been hacked? Perhaps instead of being worried about any of those, you're concerned that competitors or the wrong people may find out who your customers are and how much business they've done with you, or even confidential information about a new product launch or service that you're about to reveal. If you're not worried about any of these, you should be, because hardly a day goes by without some business or person being negatively affected by a security breach. Small businesses have even gone out of business, and larger organizations have had their stock price badly affected as a result of a security breach. For example, did you know at the time of recording, statistics say that the cybercrime is responsible for over $450 billion in lost revenue. 27 billion of that was lost by UK businesses alone. Bad guys have purposely designed software that can bring your business to a halt. It is no defense to just rely on your IT support, your firewall, or your antivirus to protect you anymore. Security breaches are so prevalent that today, the probability of your company being infected is simply a matter of time. But these security intrusions to your personal and business life doesn't have to be all doom and gloom. My name is Ben Chai, and I am the Media Director for Lanix UK Limited, a company dedicated to the automation, enablement, support and protection of your business processes and your data. In this short presentation, we will share with you how you can protect yourself, your colleagues, and your company by taking some simple precautions. We will also share with you the most common methods bad guys use to infect you and your company, and how you can protect yourself and your company with a few simple precautions. We will not be reading all the words on every slide, so please feel free to pause this presentation at any time should you wish to read any of the presentation slides in more depth. Now, before we begin, I'm just going to share a little bit about a concept known as the threat landscape. The threat landscape may seem like it's a very large area within your organization, but actually it only consists of 3 areas: people, processes, and technology. And the bad guys are going to target each one of those areas to compromise your environment and steal valuable information such as your bank accounts. You can see in the threat landscape slide the kinds of categories of security incidents that appear over time. Now, we have 2013 and 2014 statistics, but in many ways, these statistics don't matter. The point is that those 3 areas, people, processes, and technology, can be attacked using malicious code, sustained probe scans, unauthorized attack and access, suspicious activity, access or credentials abuse, or denial of service. And we're going to go through each one of those areas later on in this presentation. Those main areas of attack on your landscape, as you can see, has touched even the largest corporations such as eBay and banks such as JP Morgan. So many different areas, even countries, and we have the Turkish Citizen Database. In the UK, we've had our own Department of Work and Pensions database stolen. And the reason is not because of processes and technology, but did you know that over 95% of all security incidents involve human error? And this is according to an IBM statistic. Even though you have a firewall and you have antivirus software, most of the compromises have been through human error. The reason why is due to many of the security misconceptions that we have. For example, if you are working within a company, you may feel that you're too busy to think about security. Or if you own the business, you may think it's too expensive. Some companies feel that because they are compliant with various regulations and they have this firewall, that they cannot be compromised. A common problem that we find in some of our smaller organizations that we look after is that they feel they're too small. Why would a hacker go after me? I'm only a small little business. I'm only doing several £100,000 worth of turnover. Why don't they go after the big boys? Security, you may feel, is an IT problem. You may feel that it's Lanix problem and doesn't concern you. But there is only so much we can do in defending you, in ensuring that you've got the right backups, in ensuring your firewall is up to date. Security is actually everyone's responsibility. And in this presentation, we will share with you the knowledge that you need to be security aware and be able to protect yourself, your colleagues, and your company's assets. And the knowledge that we're going to share with you in this presentation will allow you to take that knowledge and even defend yourself at home or at your friend's house. What's at risk? Why is it important? Well, we've already mentioned a few of those areas that are important, such as your bank account details. Everyone knows that. Your credit card details. But what else could be at risk? Well, we've mentioned like your customer data, such as email addresses. We've mentioned perhaps even passports. When you work in some organizations, such as the banking and property, real estate, and solicitor environments, passports are actually sent to and fro to just ensure that you are who you say you are. So the bad guys are after copies of those passports, which then they can duplicate. Here's a big one that people aren't aware of. Many people today are gamers, and gaming accounts are actually worth more in many areas than credit card details. So you can see that we have a whole set of information that the black market would be after by attacking you. Let's actually have a look at this attack surface and let's get more personal. Let's talk about you. So we've mentioned that the attack surfaces are human processes and technology. And if we divide it further, we can see that these attack surfaces, or attacks rather, can come through your computer. They can come through your network. They can come through a malicious download from a website. We've mentioned humans. The cloud, that's another way, because we're putting a lot of our data in the cloud today. Mobile devices, that's a really big one. And this is why so many companies want you to protect your iPhone or your Samsung or any other device which is carrying data. Some smart devices, which is another thing, but that's more likely to come into play in the next few years. Let's talk about you, the human attack surface, and why IBM said actually 95% of the attacks come through people. That's how they've been compromised. The reason is that people are the key holders of information. By and large, people are trusting. The bad guys actually attack your emotions, like trust, which is a big thing. And in order to expand and grow our businesses, we have to learn to trust. We have to trust our partners and people we collaborate with and our colleagues. But this is very naive. And that brings us to the next one, our naivety, such as, oh, the firewall will protect me, or if we've had some training, that will protect us. in actual fact, we need to be vigilant all the time. And we'll show you some of the areas that people are quite naive in. Obsessions. Now, most of us have patterns of behavior. And social engineers, these are people who will look at the way you behave, will exploit your obsessions to gain trust. Obsessions often contribute to what we call tunnel vision, which is the inability to see outside of a box. And finally, fears. So you may fear being dismissed if, for example, you caused the problem, and then you don't tell people that actually you may have made a mistake and you need someone to sort it out properly. An experienced social engineer can really play on those fears. So we'll be looking at each one of these areas as we go through the presentation. But first, a little story of how some of these weaknesses have been used to crack the most difficult system ever designed. And that was the Enigma crypto system, which was designed by the German forces to protect their messages. It was a fantastic system at the time. It would take 1,000 operators 24 hours a day using 4 keys a minute, 900 million years to try all the keys to crack it. However, the Allies cracked the code largely due to human factor. Of course, we would have had some software to help break the encryption, but here's why the Allied were easily able to crack the code. Of course, they had their algorithms to crack the code, but it was mainly due to the users not being trained correctly, and the users were using easy-to-guess ciphers, such as girlfriends' names, or shortcuts such as AAA or 1234567, or QWE as in the start of QWERTY. So it was the human error that actually caused the problem. And this is why people have learned a lot on how to protect their environment from the lessons from the Enigma crack. So the Allied forces essentially exploited the human weaknesses of trust. So the leaders trusted that their operators were using the training that they had to protect the messages properly. Naivety, the German leaders just believed that their Enigma crypto could not be cracked and that the operators were doing as they were told. Obsessions and vanity. Ego is a big thing. And in fact, it's one of the weaknesses for many businesses that fail, is that vanity and ego. We must always be vigilant and never assume that because we spend £50, £1,000, £10,000, £100,000 on IT safeguards, that our systems cannot be cracked. And remember, it always comes down to that human error. Let's look at some of the attack vectors and where you come into play. An attack vector is a method by which the bad guy can gain access to your system. And once they have access to your system, they can steal valuable data. Remember that your mobile device is also an area that a bad guy can attack. And some of you have on your mobile devices information about your home and your personal environment. So it's really important that you understand how to protect even the smallest areas of technology that you may have. Now you can see in this slide some common areas where bad guys can attack your information. So the mobile security device, which is at the bottom of the slide, is one of the biggest ones today. But also let's look at unpatched software. Now, normally you will outsource your technology, or you will have an IT person ensure that your software is patched up to date. If it isn't up to date, then there are different software or malware as we call it, which will take advantage of your unpatched software. Social networking is something that you need to be aware of. So we suggest that you never put personal data in social networking, such as on Facebook. Don't put your exact birthday, your address, and also it's crazy for you to start posting that, hey, you're at the airport or you're in a new country, because if a bad guy knew this, then they could actually visit your house and know that your house will be empty because you are not there. Those are some of the areas, and please, if you have time, Google and find out more about these different common attack vectors. For now in this presentation, we want to focus on the ones that are used to attack you personally. We're going to show you an anatomy of a cyber attack using an email virus example. And this example we'll be using throughout the rest of this presentation. So just remember, it's an example. As part of an attack, the first thing a bad guy will do is some research. So for example, if they were looking at you and you may think, well, I'm just a cleaner or a coffee boy, but they'll be looking at you and they'll find a way to work out what your name is. And then they will probably go onto Google, put your name in Google, find out what you're part of. Maybe you're a gamer. They'll have a look at your Facebook, or if you have LinkedIn, they'll have a look at LinkedIn. Then they will work out how they can get your email address. Perhaps they can get your email address from your brother or sister, and they will have found that information from your social media. Once they have your email address, then they can start sending what we call booby-trapped emails. Now, there's a whole variety of booby-trapped emails, but we'll just talk about one way to infiltrate your system. So, for example, you could be sent an attachment, such as a Word document or a GIF. And once the document is opened, it will drop some malware onto your computer. And that malware can do a whole bunch of things, such as it may collect data on your computer, it may collect your usernames and passwords, it may actually just spy on you and see that the times when you log on and log off. So that is where it's infiltrating. And then finally, exfiltrate, which is stealing the data. So that is the anatomy of a cyber attack. Now, it's a very simple cyber attack, and we always recommend that if you're trying to protect yourself, please don't open any attachments. And here's how clever the bad guys will get. Since they know who your brother and sister or friend is, they will send you an email that looks like it's from one of your close friends, and then they will send that attachment or a link. Now, if your family have never sent you attachments or links before, that's a red flag. Don't open it. Don't click on the link. Just an example which will come through later on in some of the other slides. Social engineering. This is another common way. In fact, it's the most common way of gaining your trust and gaining access to your environment. Social engineering is the exploitation of humans' natural inclination to trust. And social engineers will manipulate people into performing actions or divulging confidential information through baiting, phishing, spear phishing, pretexting, and scareware. Let's look at baiting. Baiting is very simple, and it's quite interesting how many of these attacks are simple. Baiting simply involves leaving something like a USB stick next to your computer. It's normally got software that will infect your environment. So if you see any USB stick, perhaps it's in your car park, perhaps it's on your desk and you don't know where it came from, don't plug it in. Give it to your IT guys and ask them to plug it in, and check it out. So normally your IT staff or your company that you've outsourced your protection to, hopefully it's us at Lanix, will check out your USB sticks. We've got special computers that will check out the components that you might plug into your computer. So that's baiting. Phishing. Phishing is an attempt to acquire your username, password, and credit card details. A common phishing attack may be, we believe that your NatWest bank account has been compromised. Please click on this link and check out that the information we've got on you is valid. So when you go to the link, they'll ask you for your username and password, but actually it's malware capturing your username and password. Now, you may think that hardly anybody would fall for that because this trick has been going on forever. But unfortunately, a personal friend of mine who only a year ago, since this recording, actually clicked on one of these links and put in their username and password, it was bogus. Within an hour, they had lost, I think it was about £7,000 from their bank account. So please be aware of these phishing attacks. You can avoid this attack by not trusting any form of electronic communication, even though on the surface they seem legitimate, even from people or organizations you know. So, as we said before, never blindly click on any link or attachments that you've received. Very quickly, this is how you can tell that perhaps the email isn't relevant or the text isn't relevant. So, for example, it might say it's from Barclays or NatWest, but when you have a look at the account, you see that the email address actually isn't from Barclays. You might see that the spelling and grammar isn't actually very good. And if you do get an email from a bank or an insurance company, they're very, very well written. So if you find spelling mistakes in it and grammar issues, then that's probably not from them. Now, I know we work in an international environment, so you don't actually know English grammar itself, but please be aware that if anything with that email looks suspicious, it's probably because it's hacked. And then obviously you have a link or attachment. Again, please don't click on it. In fact, the best thing you could do if you feel that the email is suspect is to contact your IT department. Spear phishing. This is a very targeted attempt at acquiring sensitive information. And it's very similar to regular phishing, which we've just shown you. The reason it's successful is because the source is or appears to be a trusted individual, such as your brother or sister. So personally, anybody in technology, if they get an attachment from a brother or sister or family member, they either delete it straight away or they phone them up and say, we've just got this attachment from you. Did you send it? Finally, scareware. Scareware is a type of malware designed to trick you into making a purchase or downloading useless but dangerous software. You can see a picture of some malware on this screen at the moment. It says you've got viruses on your computer. And if you want, we can actually fix these viruses if you download our special software. To avoid this attack, again, don't click on any pop-ups. Close the window, and if you can't close the window, call your IT department. Never download any free software. And again, if you're not sure, report it to your IT department. The greatest defense against social engineering is physical security. So remember that without physical security, it may be very easy for the bad guys to get into your organization and obtain your sacred data. Here are several methods that a bad guy may be able to get into your environment using social engineering to try and get around your physical security. First of all, they may pretend that they're from your IT company. So here you see a man wearing a Lanix t-shirt, but actually he may be a bad guy. So always get some kind of identification from the person. For example, he may be on the guest list, ask his name or her name before you allow them to access your environment. But it's not just an IT support person, it could be a cleaner. One company we support had all their laptops stolen by letting a cleaner through into their environment. So it might be a cleaner. It might be any person that you've outsourced parts of your business to who's come in and compromised your environment in some way. One of the best ways to prevent social engineering is physical security. But even your physical security can be compromised through good social engineering attacks. And they're very simple ones. For example, someone pretending to be part of your IT support, or a cleaner, or a photocopier engineer. All of these people don't actually work for your environment, and you might assume that these people who you trust may run off with your assets. There are modern technology as well, such as Google Glasses or smartphone cameras, which can take pictures of your data. So it might be that they don't take anything from your environment, but they've used the smartphone to take a picture of an important document that's on somebody's desk, or even a password, because many people put their passwords on little notes or on the blackboard or a page in front of them. So please, if you have people coming to your organization, have someone who is constantly with them. That prevents those people from accessing unauthorized areas. So whenever somebody who is not part of your company is coming on site, either have them be accompanied by a person who is knowledgeable in these areas, or have and ensure that they are a trusted person by getting the proper security identifications from them. One final aspect of physical security are fake wireless networks. Now, it is possible for people to pretend to be or even create a wireless environment that you can hook into. If you are going to use those public wireless areas, please be aware that they're not protected. So never put confidential data across those networks, because an attacker can easily eavesdrop, or if they are responsible for the Wi-Fi, they will have access to all the data going through. Let's recap the IT security best practices we've shared. 1. Don't be tricked into giving away confidential information. For example, don't respond to emails or phone calls requesting your username and password or any other confidential company information, such as people's email addresses. Always keep in mind that the bad guys are successful because they are convincing. Remember the old James Bond films where James Bond pretends to be a commanding officer to get into military sites. It's the same thing. The bad guys are going to pretend to be someone in authority or someone who should be on your site. Recent news stories have reported that cybercriminals are tricking people into giving away information with fake IT support calls claiming that they're going to help you. So keep on guard and report any suspicious activity to your own IT department. Don't use an unprotected computer. When you access sensitive information from a non-secure computer, you put the information you're viewing at risk. Malicious software exists that allows people to easily snoop on what you are doing online when accessing unprotected sites. So if you're unsure if the computer you're using is safe, don't use it to access your data. Now, that computer may even be a friend's computer, and you don't know what their antivirus protection is like, so just be careful. 3. Don't leave sensitive information lying around the office. For example, don't leave printouts which contain private information, such as customer data and what they've ordered, on your desks. Don't leave your passwords stuck to monitors or keyboards or on a blackboard behind you. It's really easy for visitors to glance at your desk and see what that data is, or even bad guys to quietly take a picture using their smartphone camera. Keep your desk tidy and documents locked away or shredded when no longer needed. So always operate a clear desk policy to reduce your information leaks. Number 4, lock your computer and mobile phone when not in use. Always lock them and have a timeout. Normally it's 5 minutes. You may wish to adjust it to 3 or 10 minutes, but always have a timeout so that if you haven't touched the keyboard or clicked on a mouse or touched the screen, that your computer and mobile phone will automatically time out and put that computer lock or mobile phone lock on screen so that people, if they are walking by, don't see the information that is stored in them. Number 5, stay alert and report suspicious activity. So be cautious of people you don't know who are asking for things, especially if they're online. Even people you do know, check them out. Remember, pretexting, someone may pretend to be someone in authority, like your bank or credit card. And so you want to double check and make sure that they are who they say they are. One way is to call them back by using a known number. Challenge any strangers that are working on your site, especially if you're a small company and you don't know that person. So just say, "Oh, I've never seen you before. What do you do here?" And look at their response. If you find a lost memory stick or phone, don't plug them in. Just report them to your IT department. Number 6, password protect sensitive files and devices. Remember that it's important that your sensitive files on your computer or your USB sticks or smartphones are password protected. Now, if you don't know how to password protect them, please get some help from your support staff, because if your laptop or phone are stolen or your USB stick goes missing, then that information may be compromised and used against you and your company. So if you are in charge of the corporate data, perhaps you're the financial director or the business owner, then frankly, encryption of your devices would also be ideal. Losing a device can happen to anyone, but by protecting your device with strong passwords and preferably encryption, you make it very difficult for someone to break in and steal data. Number 7, always use hard-to-guess passwords. Many people use obvious passwords like password or let me in or cat dog or the name of their mother or father or pet. They may use character sequences such as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just these sequences that they see on a keyboard like ASDFG. The best way to protect your systems is to use an easily rememberable complex password. You can see an example of a memorable password in this slide. 7 alligators in my bath, but you can see how every one of those letters has been replaced either with a capital or an @ symbol or a number. Try to use different passwords for different websites and computers. So if you get hacked, your other accounts aren't compromised. Now that might seem like an easy thing to do, but it's actually more difficult than you think. Especially if you have 10 or 20 or 30 different websites and computers. Where possible, don't share your passwords or write them down. And remember, passwords can always be reset, so don't worry if you don't remember your password. Number 8, be cautious of suspicious emails and links. Remember to delete anything that looks suspicious, especially if they're from people you don't know. And never click on their links, no matter how seductive those links are. Here's how you can make 100 million in 2 days. Here are some sexy people you can connect with. So all of those are instantly suspicious. Opening these emails or clicking on the links in those emails can compromise your computer without you ever knowing. Do not automatically assume that any email is safe, even if they're from a friend or family. Always call that friend or family if they've sent you an attachment and just check that that is really the person who sent the email. Number 9, don't plug in personal or unknown devices without the authorization from your IT department. For example, USB sticks, MP3 players, and even smartphones. Any of these things can be compromised, especially if you've used them at your house or a friend's home. Any device can be compromised because it has code waiting on it to launch when you plug them in. So always talk to your IT about your devices and let them verify that your device is okay to be plugged in. Number 10, don't install unauthorized programs on your work computer. Malicious applications often pose as legitimate programs, like games, tools, or even antivirus. Their aim is to fool you into infecting your computer or network. If you like an application and think it will be useful, then contact your IT department and verify if it can be installed. Remember, installing unauthorized software can not only compromise security, it can also have licensing issues which could lead to fines. Let's recap. People, that's you and me, are the first pillar of information security. Cybercriminals will target human weaknesses such as trust, naivety, obsessions, and fears. Knowledge is your only defense. Remember, what you see and hear is not always as it appears, so don't fall for common social engineering tricks such as phishing and spear phishing, baiting, pretexting, and scareware. Most of all, do not click on rogue hyperlinks or pop-ups or attachments, and always be on your guard and never blindly trust anyone. If in doubt, verify it and report it. Thank you for listening to this presentation. If you have any questions, do contact us at www.lanix.co.uk.